Buongiorno pantofiole.
Buongiorno.
Siamo verdi e senza faccio sul divano. Sono il viaggiatore verde.
Ah, sì. I didn't know we were doing Italian today.
Sì.
But we're doing we're doing Pinocchio today,
Well,
which is
I said
Italian.
I was the Green Traveler.
Oh, I see. I am the faceless Leon.
We're back. We're back
Yeah.
with Disney Playlist. Their second, supposed to be their third feature length film, but their second feature length Pinocchio.
What got bumped?
Bambi was taking too
Oh,
long.
really? Oh,
Yeah, it was too hard to animate all them animals. So
I see.
yeah, Walt Disney was
We'll
like, all
talk
right,
about
let's
it.
bump up our number three Disney film Pinocchio.
Yeah, and I think it was a pleasant surprise for the peoples.
Yeah, I think it shocked a lot of people.
Shock, huh?
Yeah.
With
Not well shocked
Bad
as
Boys.
in the animation was so wonderful.
Yeah, it is. It's very
I think,
crisp.
yeah. Well, also like the movements are amazing. I mean, we'll get more into it, but it was groundbreaking animation. So I think people were just like, I guess shocked, maybe not, maybe more blown away by what they accomplished with this. Just what 2 or 3 years after Snow White. But yeah, the synopsis
a lot different in style.
Yeah, it is. The story of Pinocchio, as most people probably know, just the most genuine, beautiful men. Sorry, Geppetto.
Yeah. Yeah, before we talk too much about Geppetto, though, I say this is a podcast about movies, and we're not going to try to spoil Pinocchio for you, but I imagine most people have seen it or heard the story. And sometimes we talk about current events, and that's all I got to say. Go ahead, Greg. Sorry.
Well, now I don't remember where I was at.
Geppetto, the men of men.
Yeah, the most kind of men wishes upon a star to have a boy, a real boy. And he also works on puppets and clocks, I guess. There's a shit ton of clocks in his house.
Yep.
But yeah, he wishes upon a star, and overnight, lo and behold, the blue fairy comes along and gives life to his puppet Pinocchio and brings it to life. But not as a full boy, still as a wooden puppet.
Yeah.
Pinocchio has to prove himself worthy to become human. A very good American message there. You're not worth anything unless you work for it.
Yeah. I guess I haven't read the novel, so I wouldn't know if that was the message that they're going for too. But yeah,
it's
very
capitalist
message, I suppose.
Yeah, that's the basic synopsis though. Is Pinocchio goes he's accompanied by Jiminy Cricket, his conscience, who is a cricket, and I like him better as Lemony Snicket.
Lemony
Snicket is much better.
You like Lemony Snicket better than Jiminy Cricket?
I do. But that's nothing. But yeah, so what did you what are your thoughts on Pinocchio?
What are my thoughts about Pinocchio? I mean, if we're just gonna go base it off of the previous Disney film that we watched, I feel like it has a lot more depth than Snow White. They go into the characters a little bit more, I feel like. And speaking of Jimmy Cricket, one thing I do like Jimmy Cricket personally.
Oh, I do too.
But he is the most American character.
Yeah. Well, he's also he's not in the Italian story.
No, okay.
There is a wise cricket in the Italian story who Pinocchio kills with a hammer.
What an asshole.
Yeah, Pinocchio in the book versus Pinocchio in the movie is completely different. Like, Pinocchio is a huge just ass. Just a rotten, like, the only way he learns is through the torturous punishment.
Jeez.
Which, like, it's very similar to the movie Pinocchio, where he only learns because he gets punished. But he doesn't go into things with cruel intent. You know, he's
right.
Just warm-hearted. You know, he's innocent. He's lovely and innocent. But yeah, in the book, the Jiminy Cricket character gets smashed with a mallet really early on after he chastises Pinocchio, and then he comes back later as a ghost and kind of like haunts Pinocchio a little bit.
Oh my god!
So there's a consciousness there, element there in the original story.
It's kind of like the old cartoon trope of the angel and devil on your shoulder.
Yeah,
a little bit more than.
Yeah, I watched Pinocchio before I read it. Of course, I watched Pinocchio as a kid.
Right.
And in college, I had to read the Italian version for a class, and I thought my Italian was just bad when I was reading it, because Pinocchio is an asshole. He's not likable at all in the story, in my opinion. Maybe my Italian was bad.
There's a lot of versions, a lot of cinematic and televised versions of this story, and there are some versions that I've seen where he was a bit of an ass, which I mean, it makes sense for what happens to him.
It's symbolic.
Yeah.
His personality foreshadows his eventual adventure.
Yep.
But
he's really sweet in the Disney version.
Yeah, and I mean, I come off sounding like I'm not a fan of the Disney movie. I do like it. It's it's enjoyable. Comparing it to Snow White, the only Disney film so far, I do agree that I think it shows that Disney was going up. Right. I give it a lesser score than Snow White. I think Snow White accomplished more with what they had. But I do think the achievements in animation through Pinocchio were good.
There's some really great animated scenes throughout the film.
And just even the When You Wish Upon a Star, it gave Disney their theme song, basically.
Right.
I mean, it also won an Oscar, making Pinocchio the first feature-length animation to win an Oscar.
Which there wasn't that many to have given an award to yet.
No.
Anyways.
No, but I mean, it's still that groundbreaking moment. They get the Oscar for Best Song and, I think, Best Score. But honestly, aside from that and, like, another song, what's the one Pinocchio song? I Got No Strings.
I Got No Strings. That's a great song. I like that song.
But those are, like, the only two songs I remember throughout the whole thing. It's like, I feel like the music's kind of forgettable in this.
Oh man, I think it's less so for me anyways than Snow White. Like the only thing that really sticks in my head is Hi Ho from Snow White. Mm-hmm. More like now that I'm an adult and I watch it, more things get stuck in my head, like the Wishing Well song gets stuck in my head for some reason.
Yeah.
But for this, yeah, I guess it is just those two songs, but I like them better.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I like Hi Ho much better than both of these songs.
That's fair.
I mean, it's not even called Hi Ho, I don't think. Is it? Or is it?
I
feel like it's got a different name.
I do not think that's what the song is called. It's their working song. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, and I only know the opening.
Yeah, even the Wash Your Hands song I love. I mean,
I do like the Wash Your Hands song.
Only because of the sound effects too, but
yeah. I think that there are just less musical numbers. I honestly, I'm trying to think of
if there
other musical numbers. Yeah, did they have one once they got to the island? That's what I'll say.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. No, I feel like with Pinocchio, even though the animation is better, even though it looks the characters look more livelier, I just feel like there was more fun in the animation with Snow White. It's especially with the animals, like when they're all cleaning, there's a lot of fun little gags.
Yeah.
With Pinocchio, you really just got Geppetto's cat that has some funny gags, and then some moments with Jiminy Cricket.
Right.
But,
I do like Figaro quite a bit. Figaro's
yeah.
funny.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of fun throughout, but it's just for Pinocchio, I feel like it's one of those that, again, they've done so much better since then that I kind of forget Pinocchio exists.
That's
which is
fair.
sad. Which is sad because it is a good movie, and it definitely should be respected for what it accomplished. Because again, it's a cell animated feature, and some of the movements, you know, for like vehicles and like just smoke or rain,
Yeah.
or even there's a scene at the end in the ocean with a whale, I will say, where the waves and everything look so good.
Yeah.
Especially for 1940s.
I would say it's like a lot more textured than Snow White. Like
yes.
they definitely went out of their way, like you said, for the effects in this movie, I would say.
I agree.
That's what I'll say. But like you said, men of men, that Geppetto.
Yeah, I love Geppetto. Who voiced him? It was I got it written down here somewhere. Is that really the one character I didn't write down? How did I not write down Geppetto? Who voiced
It
Geppetto,
is
Blake?
Christian Rub or Rube, maybe. I think it's Rub because it's R-U-B.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's good. You know, he's got just a beautiful like voice.
Yeah, he definitely sounds the most
character.
European out of everybody.
Yeah.
I don't
he's
know
just
if he
super
was
likable
going.
Too.
Oh yeah, he is, and he's like, he's a toy maker. He puts so much attention into the detail of his toys, and like honestly, if he was, I would say, born several centuries earlier or a century or later, he probably would have been a great engineer.
Maybe.
Like he knows how, like he's got all like I, you know, they don't explicitly say, but he makes all the toys in his shop, and there's a bunch of, you know, those old clocks that have mechanisms that have little figurines go around and do little things.
And the animators built all of those clocks just so they can draw all of those clocks. Maybe they didn't build it specifically. Yeah, they might have had other people build it, but like they had all of those clocks just so they could draw them.
That's amazing.
That's one of the, like, for me, it's one of the funnier parts in the movie, and also one of the more annoying parts, because I'm right with Geppetto, where it's like all those clocks ticking at once. I'm like, shut the fuck up.
Right.
Like, it irritates all of my senses.
Was that Jiminy Cricket that was getting upset about the clicking?
Oh yeah, did I say Geppetto?
You did, right? I was just
Jiminy.
Sure we're on the same page.
Jiminy Cricket, voiced by Cliff Edwards.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing about this movie is how it was framed so much differently than Snow White. Snow White had that like storybook moment, which they might have done that. That's a big Disney trope, is the storybook at the opening, but it's actually being narrated by Jiminy Cricket while he's also in the story, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, he is the conscience, so he just becomes the conscience of the entire movie, basically.
Right.
But Cliff Edwards, his voice was famous for Singing in the Rain, the song itself, not the movie.
I got you.
He made the song a hit back in like 1929 or something like that. And you know, the thing I like the most about this movie is Jiminy Cricket, because he is unreliable, not only as a narrator but also as a conscience.
Right.
Because
at first, I feel like it's because he has trouble keeping up with Pinocchio. Like, he can only go so fast.
But I think it makes a lot of sense too, because like even, you know, you and I, our conscience, even though it's the best to, you know, always let your conscience be your guide, our conscience is not always the best.
That's another song, isn't it?
Is something, maybe. Yeah, it might be a song. It might have just been a motto throughout the movie that they repeated a lot.
Maybe.
I watched it last night, and like already I'm forgetting the movie. Like, I'm sorry, it's just there's like 3 moments that are really rememberable, and then the rest of it for me just kind of fades into the black. But like, but again, I mad respect for what it did, Right. So it's like I would still. I mean, we're not closing up on the movie just this early, but I would still give it 2.5 stars. It's still a very fun,
Sure.
very enjoyable movie. But the Blue Fairy comes down and she gives Pinocchio life, and then she says that he has to have a conscience, because I think
Right.
she's the one who tells him to always let your conscience be your guide. And then Jiminy Cricket from like up above in the cabinets comes floating down. He's like, "I'll be the conscience," and it's just like, "Who the fuck are you? Why are you taking credit for this?"
I that's not quite how I remember it. I remember her saying what you just said, and then Pinocchio is like, "What the heck is that?" And Jiminy's like, "You stupid wooden child." A conscience.
He comes down and explains what a conscience is, and she asks if he wants to be the conscience.
Yeah.
And he jumps all over it because she's pretty.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I got from that too. Yeah.
But like it works so perfectly, because that is the conscience of especially human men, where it's just like, it's like, I should follow my conscience, and a beautiful woman asks you something, it's like, yes, I will do that. You are correct.
Yeah. And that is one blaring issue I do have with this movie, is that the Blue Fairy is the only female character.
Yeah.
There is literally no other female character in this movie.
Yeah, it's a very, very un-Disney-like quality.
Yeah, because I don't know. I mean, it is a Disney-like quality, especially in the early films, to very much sexualize the female characters.
But I meant normally they have a leading princess or a leading lady, and this is one of the few Disney movies that the main character is a boy.
Yeah,
like this and Bambi.
He's a young boy. There are female marionettes, but they're toys.
Yeah.
I don't think there's even voice actors listed for that singing part for There's No Strings on Me. But anyhow, it's one problem that I definitely have with this, is that she's just there to be like, oh, how beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh,
she gave him life.
Yeah. She is obviously a plot device too, to get Pinocchio to become a real boy. But one thing I really like about the Blue Fairy is that she's translucent. Like, you can see right through her. Like, I thought that was such a cool effect. And that you can obviously see, I think more so on her than on Snow White, where they put the blush on the cells.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, it's a good effect. But she's definitely just there to be eye candy. Like, definitely an idyllic woman for the time period, which is something that we try not to prescribe to nowadays.
Yeah. Fun fact about the ideal woman that you were just saying too is she's voiced and modeled after Evelyn Venable, who was the original personification of the woman of the Columbia Pictures logo. So Columbia Pictures,
really?
the woman in the white toga holding the torch.
Blue Fairy. That's
the Blue Fairy from Pinocchio, the original at least. So yeah, ideal woman. Other cast members, there was Dick Jones, who does Pinocchio. They got a young boy to do Pinocchio, which Walt Disney was very adamant about that. They chose the boy from, I think he was only in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington before this. That's the Frank Capra directed it, and it stars It stars James Stewart. It's the politics movie about the guy who goes and filibusters. You know, he's a senator who filibusters. Just like the only movie to feature such a boring topic, really. It was famous back in the 30s.
I'm sure it was. I have no idea though. I the only movies I know from this era are the Disney films and The Wizard of Oz. That's pretty much it.
I mean, that's all you need, really.
Yeah.
He wasn't. I mean, Dick Jones, who does Pinocchio, wasn't even a big character in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. He was like a page boy. So it's like,
Gotcha.
Yeah, he wasn't really anything, but he's great here. You know, he's got that cute little innocent voice.
Yeah, they captured his voice very well. Sometimes I feel like, especially earlier, they like child actors have a really hard time on recording.
Yeah. I mean, like, just him singing the "I Got No Strings," like that. It's annoying to me now because I've heard it so much, but when it was first, you know, when you first hear it, it's just a fun little song, especially when he falls down the stairs. It's just kind of cute and adorable.
Oh man, honestly, that whole scene's pretty great.
Yeah.
I even like one thing I didn't really notice until this watch was, because it had been a long time since I've seen it, was the Stromboli, the
I didn't
puppeteer
realize
monster.
Yeah, I didn't realize that they're Italian. They're Italian, somewhat sub villain, I would say, is named Stromboli.
I mean, he is not a good man. That is very, very true. He does. I will one spoiler. He does try to abduct Pinocchio.
Yeah,
and that's not
the commonality of the movie.
And it does kind of. And another thing about that is that he. It is stated in the film that he is Romani, which they use the term gypsy in the film, which that's kind of unfortunate that they villainized the only Romani character, which is very common.
Completely.
Very common, you know, to do that. But
yeah, I completely overlooked it for whatever reason. I thought he was just an Italian guy.
No, I think Honest John. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about Honest John yet. Honest John mentions that he's Romani, but you know they don't say that because
the very honest fox who
the very honest yes
he gets Pinocchio in all of his troubles. He's the devil on the shoulder to Jiminy's angel.
That is very true.
I mean, just to wrap up the story elements of the movie, you know, to give my thought on that. You know, again, it's a fun movie, great for kids. You know, gave Disney their theme song with "When You Wish Upon a Star," which is a good song.
It's a good song.
You know, good voice work. You know, fun story with a good message for kids. You know, it's like don't lie. You know, telling lies just snowballs into a worse event that you don't want to get yourself into.
Yeah, lies grow is what they're trying to do. I feel like people know the classic nose growing part of Pinocchio.
Yeah, which has a very small element in the whole movie.
Yeah, I remember that being a much bigger deal.
Yeah, I feel like movies like Shrek made it much more prevalent.
Right.
You know, like a lot of comedy parodies and spinoffs took it much further.
Was it more prevalent in the novel?
I honestly don't remember it. I'm sure it was part of the novel, but I don't remember it being there. Again, my Italian wasn't the greatest when I read it.
Yeah.
And now I don't remember my Italian at all, except for, you know, buongiorno.
College requirements.
Love it. But, you know, it's fun. It's got a good message. My main issue with it is the story just kind of feels disjointed. Because it's like Pinocchio goes off to do one thing, Geppetto gets lost and goes off to do another thing. Pinocchio comes back and is like, oh, Geppetto's gone. I gotta go find him. And then, you know, third act just kind of just happens. Nothing really brings it on. He's just, for whatever reason, Geppetto's just, you know, in the situation he's in at sea. And it's just like, oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I guess he was looking for Pinocchio, but like, what brought him out to sea? I don't know. Maybe because Italy's a peninsula. He's like, I guess I better go look in the Mediterranean.
I don't know, but it's just like it just comes out of nowhere, and it's just like, all right, it looks beautiful, and it's a fun scene, but like the story itself, I'm just like, why are we here? How did this happen?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like nothing led us to this. It's just the next big moment, and it's but it's a nice resolve. I don't know. What's your thoughts on the story? We'll branch off into more discussion.
I personally like this story. I kind of wish that we had more scenes with Geppetto searching for him, because you have Pinocchio. He's supposed to go to school, and it's his first day of school, and then Geppetto never sees him until the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, there's one scene where he goes out and looks for him in the rain, and it's honestly, this is one of the scenes that surprised me the most watching it this time, is that he's literally walking down the road and almost gets hit by the carriage that Stromboli is driving. That Pinocchio's in. I never noticed that in the previous views. And when he calls out Pinocchio's name, there's lightning and thunder, and so Pinocchio couldn't hear it. And I was like, oh, that's really smart. Like, I bet kids did not catch that.
It's a nice moment that they just bury a little bit, a little too much buried.
I wish that there was just one or two more scenes of like you said, why did Geppetto go to sea? I think it might be because he got word that he went off to this island. But that would be the only motivation for him to leave the land.
Yeah, it would have definitely set up the third act if they just had two more scenes of him searching. Right.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want to give that part away. Never mind.
Does it have to do with
I did remember one of the numbers because we started talking about Honest John. It's an actor's life for me. That I was like, man, I can't. I remember when I was watching it, my dog really wanted to play Garlic, and so I was like, okay, we'll play. And I started playing tug of war with her, and I found myself marching to this song that Honest John was using to tempt Pinocchio to go to the theater instead of school. It's pretty good.
I do also want to mention that just like with Snow White, there are some very creepy scenes. That's really, really, I think adds a lot to the movie. You know, it's a bit of a spoiler, but there is a transformation scene about 2/3 of the way through, where a character churns into another character, and really well set up. You know, they mention it twice in passing through dialogue, and then it just happens. But like them mentioning it in the dialogue is coincidental, so it doesn't really make sense why they would foreshadow it like that. But it's also in the book. I didn't remember it. I'll spoil what the transformation is here so that it's less vague for those. So skip forward 5 seconds if you don't know the transformation. He turns into a donkey. I didn't remember the transformation in the movie from watching it as a kid. And then when I was reading the book in an Italian class, I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is out of left field. Like, I was so confused by it.
I wonder if it's like an old, like if the author was pulling that from like an old Italian folktale, if like
we talked about it in class. Yeah, we talked about it in class, but honestly, I'm a bad student. I didn't listen. I'm terrible at the American way of teaching. Like, it just washes over me. Right. But that's But that was one thing that when it happened, I was talking to the other students and I was like, did this happen in the movie? And they're like, yes, he turned into this. And
Yeah.
I feel like as a kid, I just blanked it out because it was so frightening. It's just like, because they don't show it. They do kind of what they did with Snow White, where they cut to the shadows and you see it happen in the shadows.
Right.
And that makes it just so much more frightening for me, because it's like, you see parts of the transformation happen, like the ears change and a little bit of the voice starts changing. Right. And then you cut to the shadows and the whole body just changes. And it's like, oh, fuck.
Oh, my.
It plays on a child's imagination, definitely, I would imagine.
I think the whole island sequence is kind of scary, too. But it might be because I was a little reserved boy who listened to his mommy and daddy.
Yeah. Yeah, I was rebellious.
So,
yeah,
I feel like we kind of talked about the novel a little bit throughout. But it's a fairly old story. I don't think it goes back as far as Snow White does, given that it was written in 1883, like this post-industrial revolution.
I still have the book here too.
Yeah, I've never read it myself, but it's written
Don't
by...
recommend it.
You don't recommend it? But not even in English? What if I got an English translation?
I feel like it'd be boring in English.
Okay, watch the movie, folks.
The Italian... Well, I mean, even just... Yeah, watch the movie just because the character Pinocchio is even better.
Yeah.
Like, it's a better message to be kind-hearted and also learn from your mistakes, instead of be an ass and that's why you learn from your mistakes.
So, just to make sure we're giving due credit, that original novel or novella, it's a pretty short novel.
Yeah.
It was Carlo Collodi, right? That's
Collodi.
Just Collodi. Thank you. I don't have any skill towards Italian pronunciation.
Le Avventure di Pinocchio.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks, Greg. So
that was also bad Italian too. My accent's bad.
Hey man, I tried to take German and all of my professors were like, Das Akzente ist schlecht. Which is a curse. So why don't you want to talk about some things that happened on the production?
Yeah, sure. The story was brought to Walt Disney's attention by I think it was Norman Ferguson, who was an animator on Snow White. I guess he read the Pinocchio. I don't know if he read it in Italian, but he read Pinocchio and brought it to Walt Disney, and he immediately hired a storyboard artist and was like, make this a movie, or like storyboard this movie for me. Not as exciting as Snow White, where like he acted everything out for the animators and everything. But they came up with a story and they brought the story to him and he was like, no, it's too loyal to the book. So they redid it again. And like he kept making changes. He wanted Pinocchio to be more like a boy, less like a wooden puppet. So that's why like the end version of Pinocchio looks very humanish, just with like, he's got a wooden nose and wooden arms. But like, again, cell animation, they shot, or they used dolls for a lot. They made like tiny little miniatures of every character, like clay models, so that the artist could, they could set the clay model up however they wanted, so that they could see it at every angle, see it in whatever type of lighting. But for the motion, where this movie was groundbreaking, was how they animated motion. They filmed it with stop motion live action. So they took these little miniatures and they filmed like live action shorts with the miniatures, and then they used that and put it on a cell basically.
That's pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a lot of work. I can't believe how much work they put into these things. Like,
Yeah,
it feels
it's crazy.
like, because it feels like double the amount of work, double the amount of effort that you would necessarily need. Like, because, you know, people could have just drawn it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But they would need some sort of focal viewpoint kind of
Right.
to. So that's why they were just like, well, why don't we just film it live action and you just freehand what you see? And like they did the same with with Snow White, where they filmed the action sequences where characters are dancing. They did that here where they had characters filmed dancing or moving or doing weird actions, just so the artist could be like, oh, so the arm will do this when you're like casting casting a line for fishing. So like at the end with Geppetto when he's fishing, I'm sure they live action filmed that probably.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, they also to put it on the cells, I guess they had to use an early version of Xerox. It's one of the first uses of that in films. Just a lot of outdated technology that we've done so much more, but you go back to this movie and it's just like, how did you accomplish this in 1940? It's so
right.
It's groundbreaking. It's mad respect for what they accomplished with this. Looking forward to seeing them get better at it.
Yeah, I honestly I do like this movie. I definitely have some issues with it. Like I said, I wish that there were any female characters in this movie. And I guess it's a very like, I wouldn't say that Pinocchio is a bad boy. He's just very easily influenced, and I feel like they don't give him any room for error. It's just a very old sense of morality.
Yeah, it's an exaggerated look on what a child really is. It's like no child is born evil. They all get raised to be how they are. So it's like, if they have a good influence, you're more likely to be a good child. If you have a bad influence like Honest John, you're more likely to be like Honest John. And it's very exaggerated because, as you said, there's no room for error for him. He makes a bad choice and bad things happen immediately.
Yes, immediately. And like, he doesn't even have a chance really to recant his mistakes. Okay, he gets one chance. He gets one chance in the movie, and then there's Honest John.
Yep. He's like, you made the wrong choice there, kid.
Yeah.
But it's still good. Still if you love Disney and you haven't seen this, you should probably do that, but I'm fairly certain if you've loved Disney, you've seen this.
Right.
But yeah, that's Pinocchio.
That was and is Pinocchio. And I am and will be the Faceless Leon.
And I'm the Green Traveler.
Safe travels, everyone. Do you thirst for adventure? Do you search for laughter and friendship?
Ha 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 ha!
Then don't miss the adventures in Valagorn! Welcome to a new world of fantasy, fun, and action! Coming to you as a monthly serial starting on January 19th of 2021. And brought to you by the imaginative people of FictionWorks 19. Starring Greg Callahan as Raphael Anastas Magoo, Sarah Christ as Vashti Whisperwind, and Kenneth Glynn as Pai Sho Wukong. We'll see you in Valagorn. The Adventures in Valagorn. Hey there, couch potatoes. This is the Faceless Leon here. Tell you about our new addition to the show. We will be bringing to you 2 episodes a week, starting on Monday the 4th of January, 2021. I'll tell you, thank you. Thank you for letting that year be over. We're going to bring in the new year nice and strong, 2 episodes a week. Do our regular thing Thursday. Nothing's changing there. But on Mondays, we are now going to be bringing to you playlists. We're going to start off with watching the Disney movies, the OG Disney movies from chronological order. We'll break it up there with some other things. Who knows what we might do. But we're looking at some long series of movies. Anyways, we hope that you, the listener, the potatoes at home, enjoy it. Safe travels. Green and Faceless on the Couch is a proud production of FictionWorks 19. If you liked the show, please leave a review, like, follow, or subscribe wherever you listen. This will help us grow our show. Be sure to visit us at facebook.com/greenandfaceless. There you'll find many links to our show and to our website. Thank you all very much for listening.